Alright, so we've arrived on Daymar and we'll run through doing the camera controls for on foot. So really quickly going through from the top to the bottom. Up the top left is the reset button, which will reset the panning. Moving all the way along, you have input boxes there where you can set durations, the depth of, and on the very right hand side you have 6 buttons that can be set up just like any of the other standard Game Touch buttons. I'm set here to change between different panels. And then moving over to the left, you've got your depth of field buttons to change your depth of field, your camera panning for key options, your jib, dolly, and zoom, and your track slider below that. And then moving down, we have a free look button down here in the bottom left, which is required for doing on foot stuff, so we'll leave that on. You have your update and on command buttons. We'll change that to real time for now, and that will do things as they happen. Then we've got joy and key. Switch to joy to do joystick. So this is essentially the setup you need to do the on-foot stuff. You can use real-time or update, but you need to have joy and free look set. And then you have your select pan preset where you select which preset you want to save a panning option to. We'll just set that to 1 for now. Below that, the skinny buttons, they're all which panning preset you wish to allocate to which camera that you have saved. So if I want to allocate panning preset 1 to camera 1, I'll use the drop down to select that. And the other option it has is none and continuous. So let's put number 2 on continuous. And then moving right to the end, you have a random button which will randomly cycle through any of the camera and panning presets you have active, as in they're not set to none. And then below that, reset, which will reset both your camera position and the panning. So we can save our camera presets by moving the camera to the position that we want, and then pushing and holding down any of the camera buttons until they flash green, and that will indicate that a preset has been saved. And then to switch between them, you just tap them and you'll switch between the different camera presets. I already had 1 and 2 saved, and I just saved 3. So that's essentially setting up the different cameras. Obviously I've got depth of field on this one. As you can see, the background's all blurry. Now, when you want to make a panning preset, we can set it to real time, as you can see here, and then as we move the view joystick, we get the panning start to happen. Down below the panning is a sensitivity slider, so if it's too slow or too fast, you can move that along to increase where you can get to. We'll leave it at minimum for now for on foot. Alright, so now that we've got our cameras saved, let's go through making a panning preset. So over on the right hand side here, we'll set our panning preset to 1. Didn't have to save it, but we'll set it to 1 there. That'll recall if there's anything saved. And then we'll attach that to cam 1. So let's go and set cam 1 as panning 1. And we'll go back to there. Now, it's got it on command. So let's change that to real time so we can see the panning as it happens. A little bit of jib up, a little bit of pan, a little bit of zoom out. And maybe a little bit of vertical as well. Alright, happy with that. Let's give that a save. Now if we go back to pan 1, it'll start from there. And because we have cam 2 set to continuous, if we push that, it'll continue the panning that we've got set for pan 1, even though we keep changing the camera. If we look here, we're like, okay, well we don't want to orbit that far vertically because it's going too far. So now we have a starting point. Let's change to on command. And we want it to stop orbit vertical after, say, 3 seconds. So we can go up here into the orbit vertical, which is the first one, and we'll change that to 3 seconds. And we update that, save it, hit cam 1. Now it'll stop vertically orbiting after 3 seconds. And maybe the same for the jib. We don't want the jib to go that far. Maybe we just want jib to go 3 seconds as well. We'll give it 4. So let's do that, update that, save it, and then check again. Yep, so our jib and our vertical orbit stop at 3 and 4 seconds respectively, and our horizontal orbit will continue indefinitely. And so with our zoom, we don't really want the zoom to go for that long. Let's see what it's like with 1 second. Hit update, save, go back to cam 1 and check it out. And 1's definitely too short of time, so let's go to 5. Update that, save it, now check it out. Alright, perfect, I'm happy with that. Now I can hit number 2, because it's still just got the the horizontal orbit remaining, that will continue. And if I go to 3, which has none set, it will set to nothing. So now we've created a panning preset on number 1, which has all of those things and times. And then for number 2, we don't have a preset for a panning, but we just set it set to continuous, so we can change our camera and continue where we're at. And then number 3, we don't have anything, so it will just go to the camera. And that's essentially how you can make as many panning presets, well, up to 9 panning presets, and assign them to any one of the cameras. Now all of those camera buttons are accessible from each of the other panels. So if we go to menu, go to FPS, we notice we got our walk and run now, not just for auto run. So if we just push walk, we want him to go a little bit slower than that, I think. Alright, so let's set our walking speed to that. Now we can hit walk. We can open up our quick panel down the bottom here for our cameras, and we can hit 1 and it will go to that and do our panning for number 1 that we've got set. Same, we can access our 2 and 3 and so on, and then reset again to go back to default. Let's get in the ship here and we'll do some of the flight stuff. We've got our little auto takeoff thing here, so we just tap that little up arrow and give us a little bit of cinematic takeoff. Get above the ground a bit so we don't crash. That should be fine. The landing gears up and go back to cinematics. Okay, so here the cameras will be set to if you've got cameras for each individual ship. As you can see, I have cameras set for the ship as well, but the pannings are what you had already set them to, same as the ones for FPS. So if I push cam 1, it'll go and do the same panning from the FPS. Okay, so let's go through making a panning preset with flight now. You'll notice with flight, if it's set to joy, and put it on real time to give the example, the panning camera down the bottom here with this sensitivity is a lot less sensitive than it is for on foot. So if it's all the way down the bottom where you use it on foot probably, you barely even notice the panning happening and you might think that it's not working. So what you can do is just bring that up and then you'll be able to see that the panning's working. The problem with flight is, especially for people who have sticks, if you're using a joystick to do the camera work and you try and use a joystick, anything you do on the joystick will cancel the camera movements. And that's just built into the way the engine handles inputs. So to get around that, if we change it to key now, and we have some sliders, leave it again on real time. Now if we set the panning, we can continue to fly while the panning and camera movements are still happening with our joysticks. So to make a preset, you do it in much the same way. Camera 7, we use that as a start point. Let's say we want to pan around to the left and we want to dolly out a bit as well. We'll just set that. Let's save that. And we'll start again from scratch and see what that's like for us. Okay, we need to pan probably a little bit faster to keep up with the dolly speed. So let's save that. Maybe a little bit slower. Update. Looks like we need to track left a little bit too to keep the ship more central. So let's put a little bit of track left in there, update that, save it, and then check it again. Right, I'm happy with that. Let's put them all to the same duration. So let's try with 8 seconds. What do we got? We got dolly. Put that at 8 seconds. We got track, 8 seconds. And that's all we've got at the moment. So let's update that, save, and check it out. Not quite long enough. Probably needs to be another, let's go 13 seconds. Put them all at 13. Update that, save it. So here we go. Okay, perfect. So if we want to have a cam that starts behind the ship, we're flying, and then rotates around to the side of the ship, now we have that at a press of a button. And again, it's infinitely repeatable, right? So we can just hit 7 again. It's going to go to that camera, and it's going to do that exact same panning preset. So there's a tip for connecting certain events together. If you run your panning preset and it finishes up here, what you can do now, let's say we want to kind of join this to something else. Let's save another camera now at the end of this as camera 8. So if we go to camera 7, camera 8, that's basically where it's going to finish up. And now we can create a new panning preset from camera 8. So let's, in this case, save it as panning 6. And we'll set camera 8 to panning 6. And then we're going to go back the other way and up this time as well. And then probably also track to the right and maybe a bit of dolly in. Okay, we don't want to rotate orbit for that long, so let's just go with 4 seconds on that, update that and save it. Maybe 5. 5, update, save. And then we're gonna probably jib up a little bit too to put the camera in. So let's update that. Maybe not that far. And let's just stop that at, let's go 3 seconds as well. Update, save. Right, I'm fairly happy with that. So let's put these at 15 seconds for both the track and dolly. Let's update that and see what we get to. I left the track on indefinite. 15. Update. There we go, and that's where our finishing camera is going to be. So now what we can do, if we want to record something, we can connect those together. So we've got our starting camera. Gets to the end there, we can push our other camera and start our other movement back the other way. And we can continue to fly while all this is happening. And that's essentially some of the ways you can make panning presets with the flight. If there's a camera that's deleted, so let's find a camera, let's go with 5. And if you hold down your camera mod button and numpad 0 by default, it will actually delete that camera. Doesn't really give you any indication, but that's what happens. Now if you see if I push 5, I'm not going back to that camera. Now what that will mean is that you can continue a panning preset or do a panning preset without actually changing it. This is another way that you can connect them. So our panning preset 6 that we had connected to an actual camera location. If we do it now from a deleted camera, which is our camera 5, it will conduct the pan without actually doing a camera preset. So in that way you can make sure it's exactly on every time. And you can even start it early. It'll override the previous preset and continue on. So you can have it connected seamlessly. Inside the configure window, this is where you can set the controls that you match up inside actual Star Citizen. So these are the type of keys that get sent when you're using the panning presets. And then down the bottom you have your camera keys. The configure for those looks similar to the normal buttons, but you lose some of the features. They're really only intended to do the camera stuff, so you can't really use them for anything else. You can change their individual colors. And you can also change their names. So maybe, I don't know, if you had a face cam set, you can call it face cam and save that. I know you've got face cam set down there. I have left the option in here to use modifiers, but I don't suggest using modifiers with the camera controls. Has mixed results, but you can also set which screen you want to change it to. So set it to flight screen there for the first camera. Save that. Now we've got a camera named face cam that's pink that will start the camera and change us to the flight panel. The last thing is the random button. So let's say you're in Quantum, and rather than you want to interact with your chat if you're a streamer or etc., you can do any of the presets you save that don't have none listed there. So if I now hit random, it'll just start going through the presets, and it will change every between 10 and 20 seconds. That time is currently fixed, it's between 10 and 20 seconds, and it will just pick a random one of those cameras and panning presets to go through. So you can interact with chat, etc., while having a bit more of a cinematic experience in Quantum Drive. And then to turn it off, just turn it off, hit reset, just turn it off, hit reset.